Good afternoon. My name is Joseph Lloyd and I source cars for people on a professional basis. Although most of the cars I source are between £1,000 and £5,000, very often I've been asked to show something a little bit cheaper on the channel, and so I came up with No Budget Reviews, the series where we look at cars that you can buy in good condition with an MOT for under £1,000 and you can enjoy driving. We don't film this in an expensive manner, we don't use separate microphones, we don't use dual head tripods, we don't even use a DSLR, but we do have a lot of fun. It's been a while, viewers, but a lot of you have been asking me when I'm actually going to be able to have a go in this particular car. And, well, today's the day. Mr Richardson from the Furiousdriving channel is out in my Volvo C70 having some fun with 237 horsepower. And I'm having some fun with 143 horsepower in this 1997 Rover 200 VI. As far as the VI goes, it's the R3 shaped 200. This really should be called the 218 VI, I suppose. It's a 1.8 engine, but it was only marketed as the 200 VI, as you can see at the back of the car. It had a very close relation in the 200 BRM, which has a different lower grille, different interior, different door cards and some other changes, and the lovely Cosmos style alloy wheels, which are similar to the ones on my 45 V6. But these particular ones, they're possibly even rarer for 200 BRMs, I don't know. They were only made for a few years. This is a really early one actually, it's a January 97, which is about when they came out, I think. So this will probably be a dealer demonstrator car from Seaward, who were a dealer in the sort of Highcliffe area, which is just near Christchurch. So this car's done quite a high mileage, just about 137,000 miles, but it's actually pretty good. Mechanically, it's excellent actually. It's just had a new head gasket, and the head's been skimmed, and the cam belt's been fitted by Mr Coleman, the rubbish mechanic, who also has just fitted a cam belt to my Volvo, and it's had a new radiator and some other things you would have seen probably on the Furiousdriving channel too. This shape of Rover 200 was introduced in 1995, known as the R3 200, because there are two other types of Rover 200, the SD3 and the R8 type. The front structure of these cars is almost identical to the R8 200 actually. The rear suspension, though, is not the same as those, which was double wishbone Honda design in the R8 model, but this is actually a modified Maestro rear suspension. And to be honest, the Maestros drive quite well, so it wasn't particularly a bad idea to fit that. They were discontinued in late 1999, I think November 99, the 25 was launched, but a lot of the models did continue a little bit longer. For example, the 200 BRMs were quite expensive, and you find them registered on 2000 plates quite easily, and I've also seen these on there as well. But this was the top model of the 200 barring the BRM, and the same engine, this 143 horsepower 1.8K series with the VVC system, also went into the 25 GTI, which was this model's successor. What we'll do first of all is just have a look in the boot. Customers said they didn't like the way that you had to put the key in or pop the release by the right hand side of the driver's seat, so this was introduced. It was more normal. Now I think there's something wrong with these two bits on the parcel shelf, so I'm just going to sort of move that there, if that's okay. Just put it down there. Nice Diamond Bright stuff. Thank you, Mr Richardson's sponsorship for that. We'll just have a look under here, see that there is a spare wheel with jack and everything under there. The boot actually is quite big in these. I'm not going to go into too much detail about the whole range of these R3200 because I've owned one myself, and we've had two of them on no budget views before, owned by Mr Curry, both of those, who provides many cars for no budget reviews as well. Mr Richardson obviously knows him. So yeah, big boot. The things that they decided to do with this car when they brought it out in 1995 was to market it a little bit up. So this car actually went up against not the Ford Fiesta but the Ford Escort. Although the rear legroom is not particularly impressive, the boot is good. But by the time the 25 came out, which would have been November 99, they actually realigned it against the Fiesta, which is a much better idea actually in my opinion. But there we go. Let's just see about getting into the back. This is the correct interior for a 200 VI, I believe, which is good. They are rare cars now, these. Okay, let's see if we can do this. The other ones of these I've been in, I've only been in the 5 doors. I've been in a 3-door 25 that we had on the channel before, but not with the R3200s. That's not too bad actually, viewers. Yeah, it's okay. Headlining is starting to sag slightly. It's a really common problem with a lot of Rovers and Jaguars and other cars of this era. Not worried about that. Ashtrays there. Little pockets by the side. I'll show you the one on this side. It's easy to film. One thing you don't get is any headrest in the back of this car, but there is a 60-40 split rear seat and some pop-up rear windows as well. It feels pretty airy in here. If I put the seat in my front position though, I'm gonna struggle a bit. I'm only 5'11", viewers. I'm not particularly tall, and yeah, that's not gonna work for me very well. So I'm going to free myself from my self-imposed prison, taking in, of course, these high adjustable seat belts, which were also on an R8, which is a very nice feature in '89 when they came out. And we will take a look at the front. So in this model we do have a seat height adjuster. I've wound that all the way down, but I still find the seat just a little bit too high for my preference, I'm afraid. And the angle of the accelerator pedal I just find is a bit tiring for me to drive a longer distance. We don't have air conditioning in this particular model for some reason, I don't know why. We do have an electric sunroof, but as I always say with electric sunroofs in old cars, let's just leave that alone, shall we? Mirror switch I think was introduced in the Rover 800s in the late 80s. It also went into the later Mitras and Montegos that had electric mirrors, which wasn't a lot of them, but and into the MG X-Power SV and Rover 25 and MG ZR and everything like that. Steering wheel controls are very typical Rover of the era. I think the 25 are exactly the same as well. Got front and rear fog lamps in this car. This dashboard actually went into the later model of the R8 from about 1995, almost late 1995, when this car was launched. They actually put this dashboard into the Cabriolet, Tourer and Coupe models because you can fit a passenger airbag in there. You can't on the earlier ones. Also, there's actually a light for the airbag in the dash cluster. There was on the earlier dash, there was not. Do check the heater resistor on these before you buy one of these cars. They are prone for going. It's not a particularly difficult or expensive job. I mean, DMGRS, who do help me out with the parts for my Rover 45 V6, and also help out Mr Richardson with some of his Rover bits. They will supply you a heater resistor kit to get that working if it's a problem. Just check all the speeds on there when you buy one of these cars. Let's see if my secret mission documents go into the glove box. We might not manage it. No, even if those little model cars were actually out of there, well, it wouldn't work, would it, very well? My secret mission documents will have a go in these quite large door pockets. There we go. That's not a problem, is it? Got the radio down there. I've always filmed with radios in an R8 or an R3 Rover 200 or 400, but they're too low. On the HHR 400s, they're much further up the dash. They're a much more modern kind of design underneath. That's probably why. 5-speed manual Honda Drive PG1 gearbox in this car. Electric window switches are in a very sort of typical 90s position between the seats. It makes it easier for left and right hand drive. You can't get electric rear windows in a 200 R3, of course, you just can't get them at all. Normal handbrake, which is good. It's pretty simple, really. There's a little bit of wood there, but these didn't come with tons of wood like the R8s had done. You can see the door cards don't have any of that on there. Material was quite nice though. I prefer some leather seats, viewers, like on a BRM, but we can't have everything, can we? Right, let's take a look under the bonnet, shall we? Ooh, fancy hydraulic bonnet struts from Dark Ice Designs. Excellent, viewers. Now, the original bonnet strut would have been here underneath. Well, we can see we've got the VVC system. That does mean that if you want to do the camber on this case series, it is a bit more difficult than the standard ones. But of course, if you've got someone like Mr Coleman, a rubbish mechanic, doing it, then an excellent job will be done. And he has done the cam belt and head gasket replacement on this car. Make sure you use a good quality timing belt as well, like a Gates timing belt when you're doing it. Heads have been skimmed on this as well. I don't know how many skimmed it's actually got. It should be okay now. The head gasket kit that Mr Coleman recommends is an original spec one, like a Victor Ryan's kit, or one that's designed for a Lotus Elise, because Lotus Elise also use this engine. So you can get one of those, and those are the ones to actually do, and somebody who knows what they're doing. Despite the fact that Mr Coleman is called Rubbish Mechanic, he's actually one of the best mechanics in the country. So, yeah. A bit of a misnomer there, but someone knows what they're doing will be able to help you out. You could be that you don't have any problems with your case series. And of course, this car had all the sizes from 1.1 all the way up to 1.8 litres. There's that expansion tank, which was on all of the R8s as well, and went on to the 25s and ZRs. Some bits are a bit tight in here, but overall, in terms of DIY maintenance, it's really not as bad as a sort of 2020s car, is it? Right, I think it's time to go for a drive, viewers. I'm delighted to say that MG Rover content on this channel is still sponsored by Discount MG Rover Spares, or DMGRS. And here I am at their offices just near Southampton. So if you need parts for your 45, ZS, ZT, or any other model from the MG Rover era, and actually a little bit before that, then I'll put a link in the video description below. But my car's actually got two exclusive DMGRS solutions to it. It's got a metal thermostat housing, which is for the KV6 engine, and it's also got an upgraded heater resistor. But there are loads of other unique things. You can get the Sheddist kit, which is for manual 45s and ZS's. Lots of other things as well. And I'm very grateful to Scott, Max and Matt at DMGRS for continuing to help keep this car on the road by offering me some discounted parts, which is wonderful. So don't forget to visit DMGRS by clicking the link in the video description below. Right, viewers, let's see how this Rover 200 VI performs on the road. Well, it seems pretty quick to me, viewers. 0 to 60 I think is about 7.5 seconds. The suspension doesn't feel to me overly firm either, particularly because I own a Volvo C70 T5 GT of this era, and that's a lot firmer than this. Engine sounds typical K series, which isn't criticism at all, it's just the way that they sound. Nice whirling and free revving. It doesn't necessarily feel that much faster than the MG ZR120 that I've driven, which has about 25 horsepower less than this. But it feels very, very punchy actually. Steering, very good, as always in these R3s and 25s and the ZRs. At the bottom of the range, and this came in I think about 97 or 98 with the discontinuation of the Rover 100, was the 211, which only had 59 horsepower from 1.1 litres of K series power. Above that there was an 8-valve 1.4K series. I think that was available right at the beginning, as far as I remember. That has 73 horsepower. The most common engine that you'll find in one of these R3200s is probably the 1.4 16 valve with 103 horsepower. I've actually owned one of those myself, and we've had one on no budget reviews before too. Above that there is a 1.6K series in the 216. That has 109 horsepower. It's available with a 5-speed manual and also a CVT gearbox. I've actually driven a 216 of this generation, the R3, with that CVT on no budget reviews. Both the 214 R3 and the 216 R3 that I drove belong to the same person, Mr Curry, who's provided many cars with no budget reviews over the years. I wouldn't necessarily recommend that CVT. It's not very good actually. It sounds rattly and horrible. They can easily go quite wrong. I'd probably stick with a manual. Above that, 1.8K series with 118 horsepower was introduced in late 1997. Actually, that came out just after this 1.8 VVCK series, 143 horsepower. I think that initially they were going to introduce the 1.8s a little bit earlier, but they needed them for the MGF, and so they delayed production a bit. Of course, there were some diesels available too, but as usual, due to controversial government legislation and all kinds of other reasons, we don't talk about diesels on this channel. What we do talk about is the way these cars drive. Now, the driving position I don't particularly like in these. I never have. Having owned one myself, it was a 1998 214 SI 5-door in this dark green colour. I owned that in 2009, and I just find, particularly in those ones with the R65 Peugeot derived gearbox, they tend to not have the nicest of clutches in them, and they tend to go a bit floppy. Now, this has got a Honda PG1 gearbox in it, or Honda derived PG1 gearbox actually it is, and these are a little bit better, but they can also go floppy and a bit horrible too. It depends really on how old the car is. Obviously all of them are old now, what the mileage is and how well they've been treated. This is actually pretty good for a car that's done 135,000 miles. And yeah, it seems to change gear just fine. I find the pedals are not the best. The brake pedal is much lower than the clutch pedal. The clutch is very high, and with the cable clutch that's in these, those can go pretty nasty and go stretchy and horrible. This one, to be honest, is pretty good. The clutch is alright. It's quite a long travel clutch, but it's fine. The seat also seems to make a difference in this. I still find that the position of the accelerator is not very nice. I have quite a bend on my right leg, and you know, having owned a 25 as well, as the 214 I had, and they both suffer from the same problem. I don't find them very comfortable for long distance driving. A lot of people who own these cars say it's absolutely fine. They don't have that same issue that I do. I'm just saying what my experience is, having owned, you know, a couple of cars on this platform. But very nice to drive. Nice lusty engine, very good handling. Ride is actually really good in this car. Obviously with alloy wheels, the cars do drive and handle a little bit better, rather like an R8, but it's no surprise actually that they're similar to those, because the whole front structure of this car is the same as a Rover 200 R8. They're exactly the same. I do kind of not really want to give this back though. I quite like it. Let's have a look now, viewers, at some trim levels for the R3200. quite a few of them actually. The initial ones were I, as in 214I, SI, SLI, and then GSI. The IS, which was the warm hatch version of this, also came out in 1997, a little bit later than these VIs. The trim levels were actually kind of changed later on, I think around sort of 1999, to SE, IE, IS, and then the IL. I think the IS was repositioned or something. What's really strange is that there were also SEI and Special Edition variants. So there's SE, SEI and Special Edition, and they're all kind of different. I think the Special Edition ones might have only been the 18 valve 1.4K series. Obviously there were the VI and the BRM versions as well. What do you need to look out for on these cars that I haven't mentioned so far? Well, obviously rust, it's a big one. Sills, arches, underneath, just check everywhere. Make sure that the cam belt's been done. Make sure you know, if someone's done the head gasket on the car, which isn't a given, not all of them blow head gaskets, that's been done properly with a good quality head gasket set. You also need to check the heater resistor that I've mentioned, and also the just get the key fob out. You need to check that that is working. They're not the most difficult things to find if you need to, but you need someone who knows how to program those. And those companies are getting fewer and fewer far between as these cars get older, unfortunately. But yeah, should you consider a Rover 200 VI with your hard-earned budget up to £1,000? I'm not actually sure you can buy a 200 VI anymore for £1,000. Mr Richardson's car didn't work when he bought it. He did pay nobody his money for it, but bear in mind that it needed, you know, cam belt and the whole head gasket and other stuff. You're going to probably be spending, if you can find a 200 VI, and bear in mind the numbers are very, very low for them, probably £3,000 for a good one. I think there's a mutual friend who's selling his 200 VI at the moment, Mr Richardson, I know, which is also this colour, and he's asking about, I think about £3,000 for it, which is about the going rate for them. Normal 200s, of course, you know, 216, something like that, that's in good condition. Can you buy it for no budget reviews money? Absolutely. Anyway, thank you ever so much indeed once again for watching. Please don't forget to subscribe to the channel, like this video, and leave a comment below. Thank you to Mr Richardson for letting me have a go in his car, and we shall see you again soon for more inexpensive motoring. Lloyd Vehicle Consulting stickers, t-shirts and mugs are available by clicking the link to the Google form in the video description below.